So, domains are starting to become useless in JJS, or so some people seem to think, for some reason. You have likely seen the recent update for JJS. It wasn't anything major. They added one new move, some nerfs to stuff like Mahito, and buffs to stuff like Megumi. But wait, Mahoraga can adapt to domains? And Jesus did it rile some people up. So of course, let's talk about it. I was going about my day just watching YouTube and I saw a video about JJS by Popz. Generally, I don't really bother to watch through these text-to-speech videos, but it had some intriguing opinions. Not bad ones, mind you. He brought up the conversation about the balance of domains and them having almost no counterplay, with the exception of Akari's, which is a literal fact, mind you. Gojo's domain locks you in place, Sukuna has constant slashes, and even if you block, he can just break it and ragdoll you. And Mahito's pure aura makes you explode, which is probably the only one you can actually attempt to run away in. But once more, they can catch you in one of their many grabs, and you basically die. Then again, these shouldn't be nerfed by themselves, since domains are supposed to be good. Then what would help in these types of situations? Well, Popz brought up the idea of simple domains, domain amplification, and heavenly restrictions. I mean, considering the fact that the game already has binding vows in its unranked, stuff like simple domains and heavenly restrictions aren't out of the picture. It will make the game a lot more unique than it already is. Or not? Apparently saying that domains are OP is controversial, or that's what I am understanding from the literal top comment of this video. Because keep in mind, not at any point in this video did Popz say that domains should be nerfed. He just said that they are overpowered. But let's look at the top comment then. You've got it all wrong! Domains shouldn't be nerfed. They're supposed to be overpowered if your average player can easily beat your trump card. With how hard it is even to use it, then your trump card is meaningless. The literal first part is wrong. Popz literally never said that the domain should be nerfed. And the last part is just not correct. You can very easily position yourself in a multitude of situations to guarantee a domain expansion. If you happen to miss it, there is practically zero penalty besides maybe getting a little bit of health shaved off. So no, it is not hard to use. And as for the trump cards shouldn't be able to be countered or well, beat in quotation marks, if he's speaking in the context of JJK, then yeah, there are literal ways for normal sorcerers to counter these trump cards. Some direct ways, some not. Keep in mind, if some of these were to be added like heavenly restrictions, specifically Toji's, some of these wouldn't work against specific domains. Heavenly restrictions wouldn't work against Sukuna's domain since its sure hit is against everything, even inanimate objects. Neither would it work against Akari's domain because, well, the sure hit is just the rules of the domain. And simple domains can be broken after a while, of course depending on the user, but since it is going to be an in-game mechanic, it will eventually break. Besides, it will only guard you against the sure hit effect, like the brain frying of Gojo's domain and the idle transfiguration of Mahito's domain. So I think I know why this is a problem to some people, and I think I know who those people are. Pop Stompers. If you know who a Pop Stomper is, it's someone who joins a public server with the most OP or brain dead character and goes around killing people. Now, don't mistake these for sweats, since a lot of them, while they are very good, their sole purpose is to run around and gather up as many kills as possible, regardless against who. They can also be spotted farming ults and doing domain drive-bys. That being said, I'm sure you can see how this affects some players. As for the average Joe, something like a simple domain which just grants a temporary resistance or protection to the sure hit, not damage mind you, it wouldn't really matter. If you're speaking in the context of JJS, the simple domain could be broken as I talked about before. So if you're getting hard focused, then I don't think it will matter much. But it could make the slight difference to at least survive the domain for a little longer. And this of course wouldn't just be some free to use move. Probably would use up some of your ult meter and replacing your R special. And this shouldn't be a problem. It will add that small aspect to fights that otherwise wasn't there. I don't want to get into the exact concepts of it because that you can come up with yourself. Or you can check out Popz' video, which also showed some interesting ways to go about it. But there are comments by you, my viewers, which are either a complete hit, or some of them are just a miss. Though we're here to discuss them all. But here goes the first post and the most upvoted one. I believe the domains being the winning move in a fight is a great concept. This makes ult battles less about neutral game and poking, but more about spacing and ragdolling, making it like a rock paper scissors match than just spam moves and hope my AoE move hits the other guy. Right, for this it's just another discussion entirely, as this is talking about ult versus ult, not ult versus base. If you wanted to make domains balanced in the context of ultimates, then we should instead be considering domain clashing. It will still keep the trump card aspect that you mentioned and adding yet another layer of depth. And before I have yet again people saying that domain clashing is already a thing in the comments, no, it is not. It's not an actual in-game mechanic, it's just a literal coin flip at the moment and just defeats the purpose of making ult versus ult more skill based. As for the rock paper scissors thing, I do mostly agree, besides a few characters. Like if Akari is in his jackpot, it's literally just rock paper shotgun. Or if you're fighting a remotely competent Gojo who can actually have decent spacing, you likely won't stand a chance. And here's the second comment. Nah, cause the domain expansions wouldn't be worth the trouble. Only a few characters should have domain counters like Maharaga, and if they do add him, Toji. As I mentioned earlier, setting yourself up for a domain isn't hard. And again, this is just a topic that doesn't have a problem with the domains themselves, rather the balance of other characters. If a character is bad, the solution isn't to give them an extra move, it is to, hear me out, buff the already existing moves. But I do agree that it should be limited to some specific characters, for 1 lore accuracy, and 2 some kids are reliant on their R move to work, like Choso, and maybe arguably Mahito. And as I don't want this video to be 20 minutes, you can go read the other comments in my community post. There is around 30 of them, and I'm sure after this video there will be more, so if you want to actively discuss this, you can go ahead there. Another thing that I did want to discuss is binding vows, since they are pretty integral to stuff like simple domains and domain amplification. I won't get into the nitty-gritty of how they work in JJK, but it's basically just getting a buff for a different kind of debuff. If you've played JJS's unranked, then it will work as just passive buffs and debuffs, but I think there are other ways to implement them. Adding some type of point distribution system to basically even out where you put your own buffs and debuffs would be an interesting way to go about it. For those who wish to have a gimmickly base style, depending on the character they play, though, then they can. But of course, base would always be more consistent and efficient. On the other hand, we have another way, which is a lot more complicated, which will be fundamentally changing certain moves or ultimates. For example, a binding vow for Yuji. If he started his ultimate, he will get some buffs to his moves, but using moves would also deplete his ult meter, and it would eventually reset you. Reminiscent of Season 1 in JJK, where Sukuna had a heart-to-heart with Yuji. It will be a glass cannon type of thing. You can deal out a lot of damage, but you can also die extremely quickly. But where it gets complicated is, would it be just a straight up buff? I think adding something like this in unranked for testing is a good idea. But what are your thoughts for binding vows? If you are an old time viewer of my channel, I made a similar suggestion for SPG, but Orange doesn't wanna do that. Yet, people seem to agree it will be a net positive for SPG, but would it be the same for JJS? And as for the conclusion of the video, don't discourage people from making their own suggestions and ideas for JJS, regardless if you agree with them or not. You're always welcome to debate them, just keep it relaxed. But with that, I will see you in the next one.